well, welcome back, everyone, to the NAIA show where we talk about all things men's volleyball in the NAIA. My name is Mike Teague. I'm joined today by a cast of characters here. We've got Luke Bentley from William Penn University. We've got Trent Bruns from Arizona Christian University. And then we've got Jared Goldberg from the Masters University. And quite an array of, I would say, hairstyles today and facial hairstyles too. So we've got the clean shaven to the mustache to the full beard. So I'm glad we're in it here. But, let's just jump right into it here. And a lot has happened in the last couple of weeks within the NAI. And I think that there's a lot of things that we could talk about. So I think for you guys, what are some key games that have happened in the last couple of weeks that maybe have stood out to you that could have potentially make for this last push of the season as we've jumped into conference? What have been some things that have stood out for you? I will start in Oskaloosa with Luke Bentley and talk to you about that.
Yeah, I assume I could talk a little bit about some of the stuff out in the Midwest, seeing that I've seen more of that in person. Those that are following the NAI know that Park is kind of running the show out of here. They've been undefeated. They took down Grandview a couple of days ago last week at their place. And I'm sure we'll talk about future games, but they come to Oskaloosa in 2 days, so that'll be a big one. But in terms of the last couple of weeks, William Penn, our team, has taken on a couple ranked teams. So we played at Mobap and Mount Mercy and Grandview and beat them, and had Grandview here the other day. Like I said, Park's kind of been running the table. We had an interesting one in the northwest part of the Midwest. Dort and Jamestown played the other day, and Dort beat them, which is kind of an upset for the GPAC. Jamestown's been kind of running that for the last couple of years, so that was big. And then a little more Midwest, San Xavier played Jamestown yesterday, and they won as well, so that's another good one. But yeah, it's been a lot of everyone playing each other and trying to figure out who's good and who's not. And but I think we figured out that Park's really good. That's what we know so far, and that's probably it. So those are some ones that stand out to me.
Yeah, I think Park's still really good at volleyball. I think that's one thing that's one thing we always know that they're going to be good. Trent, for you, what are some things for you that you've seen the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, there's, kind of the GSAC way. It's, kind of just some top talent just going like this, kind of back and forth a lot, ups and downs essentially, right? So we almost got Masters at our place, and then almost got Menlo, and then what is it? Menlo, you guys just reverse swept Menlo. Was that at their place too? Is that right?
That was at home for us.
That was at home. Okay, so that's big too. And so there's kind of just just some up and down right now essentially. And then Vanguard just capped on Ottawa at their place too. 3-1 as well. Taking off. I think Vanguard. We took the first set off of them, and they've taken the second set off of them now. So they kind of proved they're human essentially, right? They're a bunch of big guys, but. So they're just kind of over here. I just feel like on the west side, just some good teams essentially just continuing to battle out. I feel like anybody can win any one of those games. And right now, some of them kind of flip-flop from last week's rankings to this week's rankings. So I kind of picture that top 10 and kind of moving up and down again. So.
Yeah, I think what we saw in the beginning of the year was a lot of cross-conference play. And now as we jumped into conference, it's kind of the cream is rising to the top. And we're starting to get a better picture of what the National Selection Committee will be able to see as well in regards to who might be automatic bids as well. Still a lot of conference to be played. Final one, Jared Goldberg, Masters University. Any games from the last couple of weeks that stood out to you?
Yeah. I mean, Trent gave a little bit of a recap of the West Coast, what's going on in the GSAC. As well on the West Coast, Benedictine is continuing to play well. I think they have a big out-of-conference game coming up this week against Ottawa. So that should be interesting to see kind of where they're at. I think in our last show, I mentioned that I felt like at that time, Jamestown was the team that had the best shot of going undefeated this year. And since I said that, they've lost 2 games against Dort and St. Xavier, like Luke mentioned. But right now, yeah, I see Park playing well. And then back on the East Coast, in the is it the Appalachian Conference? I think Warner's currently in the lead there. And getting a season sweep over Reinhardt was pretty big for them, as they look to be the favorites in a conference that's almost assuredly a one bid conference. I see a couple of these conferences potentially at the end of the year being a multi-bid conference, and a couple almost definitely being single bid. And these single bid conferences, I think most of these conferences are led by a single team that has been kind of dominant, but you can see a couple conferences starting to fight for that top spot in those single bid conferences.
Yeah, and as you jump into the last weeks of the season, some of these conferences, their automatic bid is through a conference tournament. So it's where all the regular season doesn't really matter, and it's who's playing well at the end of the year. So I'm not sure with the Appalachian or the AAC what that looks like, but I'd be curious if another team gets hot at the end of the year, how that looks. But yeah, I think there's been a lot of good volleyball being played the last couple of weeks, and we were talking about Jamestown potentially being undefeated. Now there's only one undefeated team left, and that's Park University, and they are playing some good volleyball right now. I know that Coach Bentley, you're going to be seeing them soon, and I think I'm looking forward to that matchup between a full strength William Penn and a full strength Park as well. For you guys, as you guys have looked through maybe some individual performances that have stood out to you recently, I think there's been a lot of good performances. I know the last time we talked, Akil Oxley was going off. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like he's playing much at Mount Mercy right now. I'm not sure if it's an injury or what's going on there, but he was going off. I know right now some other guys have been playing really well, but who are some individual guys who have stood out to you? Jared, I'll start with you this time. Jared over at the Masters.
Yeah, I'll keep talking about the East Coast here. Jeremy Torres from Warner this past week in their big match against Reinhardt had a stat line of 31 kills, hitting 500. And so I was quite impressed to see that. I believe right now, as I'm double checking right now, he is leading the country in kills per set with 4.93 kills per set. So I haven't seen much film of him myself, but it seems like he's a guy that team is relying on pretty heavily, and he stepped up pretty big in their match versus Reinhardt.
Yeah, that's big. Did Camacho, did Jason Camacho from Campbellsville end up transferring over there to Warner?
When I was looking up their stats, I didn't see his name pop up on any big numbers. I'm not sure.
Okay, I thought I saw him on the roster at some point, but that'd be a good 1-2 punch there with Torres and him. Luke, over at William Penn, any individual performances that you've either seen or that you've heard of recently that have stood out?
Yeah, I'll comment on the Oxley thing. He put up 32 kills in a 4-setter against Missouri Baptist 2 weeks ago, maybe, which was pretty ridiculous. He went down, I think, a couple of days later, and I don't see him returning. So he rolled his ankle, high ankle sprain, landed on a guy, and we saw them about 5 days ago, and he was on crutches, not very mobile. So unfortunately, I think his good nights are maybe hopefully in 2024 is what we're looking at. But yeah, he's a monster. He tore us apart when we played him the first time. Park's outside, Joao Frederic, is absolutely insane this year. That guy's, I think, a big reason why they're undefeated. And their right side's pretty darn good too. So those are some good guys that have had really good performances against top teams in our conference that have been pretty impressive. Outside of that, no one that stands out to me, at least, that's been, out of the world kind of thing. I think there's some really good players and a couple other teams around here. I know San Xavier's got a couple of really good pins, and obviously they had a good win the other day. But that's the only ones that kind of stand out for me that I've seen, at least in person.
Cool. Trent, how about you? Trent over at Arizona Christian, what are your thoughts? Any individual performances you've either seen or kind of heard about throughout the country?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of both. I was looking through, some stats after, this weekend, because I know, obviously we're out here in California, and then the Masters game and things like that. So looking at the stat line right now, Nolan Flexen's 26 kills, 3 airs on 42 attempts at 548. And he has the best hitting percentage right now in the nation. It's at like 444 or something like that. So he's been producing pretty much all year. So that's probably a big step in them winning that match too. As well as even usually Stoklevinsky from Menlo seemed to have not as good of a game as he had prior, but he still hit 229. That guy's been a stud all year. He's been just kind of like their rock last year, especially when that other guy rolled his ankle, and still continues to be a rock for them this year. Then versus our match too, I was looking at the numbers over here. They hit super, super efficient, especially from their pins. Tanner Woods was 11 kills, 1 air on 21 swings at 476, as well as Kyle Onema being 20 kills, 5 airs on 37 attempts at 405. And What they don't know on that one is I believe it was fourth set. It was 23 all and ended up going kind of back and forth. And then we had the lead and they just gave him every single ball and he put 3 balls away in the end. So kind of a key performer there, stepping up in the right times. And yeah, he played great. Can't take it. He's a great player. He's also developed, I feel like, a lot more too. Last year, he kind of used to be a little more heavy cross court, but he's doing a good job of getting his feet to the ball and ripping that ball line. And so he's even become, I feel like, more versatile this year as well. So those are kind of
Trent,
that stand out.
You're talking about Kyle from Vanguard, right?
Yes, correct. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. You're good. I know. Yeah, he's been stepping up pretty well. Will Anderson was their guy for a while, and then Kyle's he's like, yeah, I was the GSAC Player of the Year last year, so I guess I could start playing well. He started playing pretty well. So yeah, him and Tanner Woods have come on pretty well too. But yeah, I think that there's been a lot of good individuals all throughout the country playing well right now, and I think it's, again, we're starting to get into, people are getting a groove and into a rhythm now, and as long as people stay healthy, it's going to be there's some really good volleyball playing in the NAIA right now. And I think it's really exciting as we jump into the last half of the season. All right. So the newest rankings just came out last week. New ones are going to come out this upcoming week. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the rankings? I mean, it's shifted around quite a bit because there've been some upsets. There've been some things going on all throughout conference play. And so I'll start this one with Luke Bentley over at William Penn. What are your thoughts on the last rankings, and what are you kind of anticipating for maybe the upcoming rankings as well?
Yeah, I think what you just said, last rankings was kind of a weird shift for a lot of teams. Like, people moved back that probably didn't expect to move back. Teams moved up. But I think what we're going to see coming up is kind of a little bit more of what we thought was going to be the case before the year started. I think some of those teams that maybe jumped will probably fall back to where they started. And I think the same thing, some of the better teams are going to kind of rise up a little bit. I think the same teams are going to be at the top, right? I mean, a lot of the teams out by you guys probably aren't going to see much movement because either you're beating a team that's 2 spots in front or 2 spots behind, and you really can't do much after that, because how are you going to fault someone for losing to a team, that's basically in the same spot as they are? So that's going to be really interesting to see who moves where. But ultimately, this is kind of one of the biggest poll before we get into the last poll before the postseason starts. So these last 2 weeks are going to be really important. So yeah, I see some movement maybe in the second half, like 7 to 15. But I think the top half will be pretty similar to what we've seen the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and look, as again, injuries, as people start getting healthy again, or there are some injuries that happen, I think that you'll see, again, some of these teams start rising up and falling as some of the star players either go down or start getting healthy again. I know for you guys with Krause, he's such an important piece for you guys, obviously a National Player of the Year last year. And so once he's healthy, you guys are really good. And you guys are still very good without him, but you're very, very good with him, right? So we'll move on to we'll go back to you, Trent. Thoughts on the last rankings, and then maybe something to look up to for these upcoming rankings.
Yeah, I mean, last rankings that came out, that was when Menlo came out to us, and what they did is they beat Ottawa, and then they came and battled with us as well. And so at that point, they kind of flip-flopped. They Menlo went right up to 2, and then Ottawa went from 2 down to 6. And so it's kind of just, I feel like that same thing, that top 6, 7 teams is always going to just kind of shift back and forth depending on who wins. And usually they're always playing each other as well. So if you lose to a top team, we're not going to, move down a whole bunch either. So I think kind of, past that too, a lot of really, really good talent out there, and anything can happen. I think a lot of the big games that happen this week, I think are going to have some impact on it, but I don't think it's going to change a whole bunch in my opinion.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Jared, Masters University, will finish with you. Thoughts on the last rankings, and then maybe any expectations coming up for these upcoming ones.
Yeah, I think with the last rankings coming out, the top 6 were fairly clear in my opinion. And a bunch of those are West Coast teams, and with that ranking, I think Park was the next highest team coming out of the Midwest at number 5. I would not be surprised if they jumped a little bit. They kept climbing. And ended up a little bit higher in this next ranking coming out this week, especially as they're undefeated. And some of these other schools have just started beating up on each other. For instance, last week, we were at number 4, then we lost to number 6 last week, and then we beat number 2 yesterday. And so it's a little bit of a hodgepodge that I think all of us could move around a little bit, and exactly the order that falls is going to be determined by the conference rankings that come out first. Because the way the national rankings are set up is the conference ranks however many teams are in their conference, and then the national ranking has to follow that order of the conference rankings. And so however that conference rating comes out, especially in the GSAC, I think that'll be very telling for kind of how the order of that national ranking is going to go, looking towards the top. And then I see, I think there's a couple schools, Luke at William Penn being one of them, that dealt with some injuries earlier in the year that knocked you guys a little bit lower. Now that you guys are a little bit more healthy, you guys are climbing back up to, again, going back to like where you kind of started the year, where people expected you to be at. And I think at this time of the year, the big question is, how healthy are people? We just talked about Oxley at Mount Mercy, and, with him out, I could see that team losing some more games and falling a little bit. My team has dealt with some injuries with Diego Perez. We've seen Chase Dorito out of Menlo, been out for a number of weeks here, and that really impacts their team as well. And so I think all of these teams right now, like some of them are really healthy and playing a really high level, and some of them are just trying to get back into the groove of things as well. Everyone's just trying to make sure they can make the national tournament, and then, playing well at the right time at the end of the year is pretty crucial as well.
Yeah, I think, the rankings at this stage, they're important, but it's not the most important thing at the end of the day, right? We saw last year, Campbellsville came in as probably the last seeded team, and they upset some people, and they were playing hot at the end of the year, right? And so right now, rankings are fine, and it keeps you up there. It's hard to move up. It's easy to move down, I think. And so they're important, but at the end of the day, it's continuing to take care of business on your side of the court, and let the selection committee at least show that you've got some good wins under your belt throughout the preseason and the non-conference matchups as well. So I know some big non-conference matches are coming. I know some big conference matches are coming as well. So what are some key games that you guys are looking forward to that are coming up that you're just like, I'm tuning in to watch this one because I think it's going to be a good one? We'll start with you, Trent Bruns, Arizona Christian.
Yeah, two ones that I'm thinking about is Georgetown coming to play Benue and Ottawa going to play them as well. So I feel like, that West Coast vibe over there, right? They're all, very, very good athletes. And then we have kind of a clash of them coming through. So I'm curious to see, we also put them as well in that mix. And it's good to see where we kind of line up against some of that, top talent as well. So, obviously we've been playing top talent on a year, but I feel like, again, at that point, it's who's healthy, who's on momentum sport, how can you take care of your side? So it's a good, I don't know. I'm excited. It's just good volleyball. So I'm curious to see who comes out on top of those two.
Yeah, Georgetown coming out to Arizona is going to be a fun one. I know Coach Palmer is going to have those guys rolling, and they're a good team, man. I like watching them, and they didn't really lose anyone from last year, so it should be fun. Good luck, man.
Yeah, and their middles are super. I like their middles too. Watching film on their middles, they're just really athletic. They're quick. They execute things very, very well. So it'll be a challenge. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, Miguel Vega is one to watch out for. He's a really good middle there for Georgetown. Nice little player there. Yep. Luke Bentley, William Penn. What are some games that you're looking forward to coming up here in the next couple of weeks?
I mentioned, I think in the beginning, Park comes to our place in 2 days, so that's going to be a big one. They're number one in conference. We're now number two. We won't be able to catch them, I don't think. So I think they'll win the regular season. Like I think maybe what Jared alluded to, or maybe you did, Mike. The regular season doesn't do anything for us, so it's some way it's not that important. But they'll probably finish the year with only a loss or two at the most. So at least at this point, we're at least trying to hold our number two spot, which gives us a bye in the first round and all that stuff. So that's a really big one for us. But some other ones, if we're looking ahead for the following week, both William Penn and Grandview come out to California. So we play the Masters and Vanguard, both. And so those would be big ones for both sides, I think. And then a kind of random one here out of our conference. I think San Xavier goes to Lourdes at some point, which would be a nice non-conference crossover for those two. Lourdes is kind of fighting for their top spot. I think San Xavier is probably a little more secure in their conference, but still to kind of see how good those two teams are will be nice as well. A lot of good matches coming up.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that I'm excited for you guys to come out. When we were talking about you guys coming out to the West Coast, coming at the tournament last year, we're like, all right, this is going to be fun to see William Penn and Grandview come out to the West Coast and play a couple of really good teams. And I don't think we all would have anticipated that you guys were all, top 10 program. Actually, we probably did. So I think it's just gonna be fun at the end of the day. I think we're really looking forward to that. So that's definitely one to look forward to. We'll finish up with you, Jared Goldberg, Masters University.
Yeah. In terms of Midwest, again, that Park and William Penn match this weekend, I think will be a very interesting match. Luke, you know better than I do, but it seems like you guys are more healthy than you were earlier in the year. And so as both teams are pretty healthy, it should be a really good test to see where you guys are all at. And then the last, in terms of like spring break coming up and more Midwest teams traveling west for spring break, Aquinas is actually a school coming out to the West Coast and playing us and Masters and Menlo at the tail end of that spring break. And so that should be even more cross conference. Aquinas was the team that last year was, I believe, the last team in for an at-large bid. And right now, I think they're running about third in their conference for the WAC. But the WAC has been a two-bid league for the last couple of years. And so, we took that match as like, looking, this is really important to get some of these cross conference matchups and getting just more data for the selection committee to be able to see where conferences and teams kind of match up come the end of the year.
Yeah, no, I think that you hit it on the head there. I think there's been so much good, and we've talked about this on the last couple of shows. There's so much good cross-conference scheduling this year, and kudos to the coaches for getting out and doing that. I think in the past, it was always just, let's play in our conference, let's rely on the strength of our conference. But this year, teams have been getting after it, and I think that's super helpful for the selection committee, and it just shows that there's some really good volleyball in the NAIA being played all across the board too. So I think that'll be good. Luke, I was actually just thinking about this. Does the top seed host the conference tournament, or is that just kind of already set?
Yeah, top seed hosts every game, so it's not in one location. Okay. So whoever has higher seed gets to host. So if you're one, obviously you get to host the semis and the finals, which is a kind of a plus. But outside of that, yeah, it doesn't do much else until you win the conference tournament. So at this point too, a little side note for anyone that doesn't know, Grandview University is the host for the NAIA Nationals. And so they get an automatic berth to the national tournament. And for the last forever, since it's existed, they've won our conference and qualified that way. So it's never come into play. They are actually struggling through some injuries as well. And I think we all know that a healthy Grandview team is not a team to take lightly. So if they get healthy at the right time, they can absolutely repeat for, I think, the 6th time in a row to win the conference tournament. But if they don't repeat and someone else wins the conference tournament, that changes the at-large process, which means that they would take one of those at-large spots. And that would leave only 3 on the table. So that makes things a lot more difficult in terms of selecting as well.
Yeah, that makes it tough. Like you said, Grandview's never been in this situation, so the selection committee's never had to worry about that. But this year, it looks like it's gonna. We'll see. There's a lot of volleyball to be played, but it could be the first year of that doing that. Yeah, you know what? I do think that having that number 1 seed, especially in the heart, I feel like there's such home court advantage for every single one of your programs. So, like, you guys play phenomenal at home. Grandview plays really well at home. Park, they have a funny gym. At least on the film, it looks like it's kind of a funny gym.
It is. It's not easy to play there, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's, I feel like there's a lot of good home court advantage for getting that number 1 seed here too. So, cool. Well, guys, any final thoughts as we jump into the last couple of weeks? Anything else that's standing out to you? I know selection committee is going to be starting to meet here soon, talking through some of these ARC rankings. We can maybe do a whole nother show on the selection committee process. But Jared, any final thoughts from the Masters University?
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the ARC rankings, and as the season's really in the back half here, it should be really interesting to see how this progresses, and again, which teams stay healthy and stay hot at the right time. So,
yeah, Trent, any final thoughts from Arizona Christian, you guys, this upcoming week?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's always a bummer just to hear about injuries and people not being at their max. And it's just like no fun, essentially, at the end of the day. We all work so hard for the season and all the preseason. So that's my best wishes for everyone, is just everyone stay healthy and have good volleyball, essentially. Because, like, even when Diego couldn't come play versus us, it was like, I was just kind of bummed for him, because we've all been there, So that's my thing with moving forward and kind of going through season. We're on our spring break right now. So we're out in California playing a few teams and doing that whole thing. But just wish everybody healthy and all that kind of good jazz.
Cool. Luke, any final thoughts here?
No, I'll echo what Trent said. Yeah, we've seen the injuries on our end. We've played some teams that have gone through it. It is unfortunate, but unfortunately too, that's part of it. So the teams that get to stay healthy and play well at the end are the teams that are going to be in the best spot. And these next 3 weeks are going to be the biggest test for that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you hope that everyone gets healthy and we can have everyone playing full strength at the end of the year. I think that's what we want to see at the end of the day. We want to see the best teams in the conference tournament, the national tournament. And so we're just hoping and wishing everyone stays healthy out there. And hey, Trent, congrats. I think you had the first received votes in your program history, right? And
yeah.
I forgot to tell you that. So congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, last week had a few, or last rankings had a few. This one have a little bit more. So hoping, obviously battling it out with Vanguard. Last thing to know, I guess, for this, there was a weird rotation thing. The book totally got botched, and it ruined my matchups. So when I said when Kyle Onema went off at the end, instead of having my big opposite Chris Beck on him, I had my smaller setter. So that was a little bit bummer, but again, we're making steps in the right direction and hoping that we're continuing to battle with the best of these teams. But I was talking to our SID. I was like, you know what? I'm tired of seeing these headlines say ACU goes toe to toe. I'm like, one of these days is gonna say we upset. Okay, so we're there. We've been there so many times, and we're continuing to learn to take those healthy risks and those healthy chances, because volleyball is just such a culture sport too, and learning how to win is a big part of that. People think like, okay, Kobe Bryant's the best finisher, but he also missed a lot of shots. The thing is, he was willing to take them. So we're just learning a little bit more to continue to push, and it's good. It's good. I'm happy for the guys that were competing and kind of getting recognized. So they've been working really hard for it.
Yeah, good. Well, you're on a call with two guys, Jared and Luke, who understand that better than I think anyone else. You are two guys that built incredible culture and incredible winning culture as well. And so that's actually another thing I just love about NAIA volleyball. There's so many teams that are doing it the right way, and I love it. That champion to character moniker sometimes, it is what it is. But I think these are programs that do it well, and I think a lot of the top programs are doing that well. So it's always a testament to that too. You know what, Jared, I'm going to throw this out there because I'm leading this right now. I'm going to do, what are your top 3 predictions? So like, who are going to be the top 3 in the next poll, right? I think, I'm going to put you all on the spot right now. Who do you think the top 3 are? I will start, and I don't have anything in front of me, so I actually might botch number 3. I think 1 and 2 are no doubt Vanguard and Park, and I think Park's going to get more first place votes than we think, as the only undefeated team out there. Number 3, I literally have no idea what that's going to look like. It probably depends on the conference ratings, but I would assume maybe Masters or Menlo would be there. But Jared, you look the most surprised, so I'm going to go to you first.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would agree with, right now that Vanguard has won all of their GSAT games. They've beaten Masters, they've beaten Menlo, they've beaten ACU, they've beaten Ottawa. And so I think they are playing like the top team out west right now. And I agree with Park, right? It's no small feat to be the only undefeated team left. Right now, it looks like, right now, Masters beat Menlo, Menlo beat Ottawa, Ottawa beat Masters. We're kind of all just beating up on each other. Arizona Christian, I'm guessing, is going to upset someone here because you guys are playing well. Yeah, it's a matter of time. You guys are playing a high level volleyball. But with us beating up on each other, I wouldn't be surprised if that third place team and ended up being Benedictine, especially if they can beat Ottawa next week, in which they were up 2-0 and lost in 5 the first time they played them. I think this time it's going to be at Benedictine. So Ottawa's got to play a high level of volleyball in order to win that match. And I wouldn't be surprised with just everyone else beating up on each other that Benedictine came in that third spot.
All right, Trent, what are your thoughts? Top 3.
I'm going to keep mine short and simple. Vanguard, Park, and then I think Ben U.
All right, Luke.
Yeah, my initial was Vanguard, Park, and the Masters, but I think the Ben U thought that Jared said is good. I could see that too. So I think one of those, in terms of 3 and 4. But yeah, I think Park moves up for sure, and I think there's no question that Vanguard stays number 1.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see how it all shakes out here in the next couple of weeks. But hey, I appreciate you guys all joining. I appreciate you guys letting me on the call from the happiest place on earth in this random little nook here. Hope you guys have a great rest of the season. Again, thanks so much for joining us on this latest call. We'll see you in 2 weeks when we start talking more about what's happened. And good luck to you guys the rest of the the next couple weeks.